Welcome, subscribers, guests, and members of the channel. This is July 4th weekend, so it is only right to do a special live talk today. Shout out to Janina for $5 super chat. Super thanks. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me. I really, really appreciate your support. If you're joining us live, be sure to leave a comment. Be sure to engage in the conversation. I'm going to bring my dear friend here in a second, but there's no topic today. We're just going to see where the conversation will take us, and no time limit, I guess. We'll just see how it goes. We may be here for 20 minutes. We may be here a little bit longer. Who knows? I mean, that's the beauty of unexpected, spontaneous conversations. My friend Michael, how are you?
Hey Yuri, how you doing, man? I'm doing well.
I'm well as well. Thank you for joining on such a short notice. Mike and I were literally talking on the phone 40 minutes ago, and we were like, let's just jump on live. And that's how it happened.
Yeah.
Things just happen quickly and unexpectedly. Well, listen, I think to start things off, obviously we didn't have a topic to talk about, but I think it would be nice to acknowledge from both of our, for both of us, I mean, what being an independent American means to us, because this is 4th of July weekend. This is an Independence Day in the United States of America. This is a special day, and this is, I would say, as American of a holiday as it gets. You don't get much more American than 4th of July, right?
Correct.
So, what does it mean for you to be an independent American? Talk to me.
Oof. That's such a great question. I was born in America. I was born in Miami, Florida, in the Latin American capital of the United States. Both my parents are Colombian. My parents immigrated from Colombia a year before I was born, or a year and a half before I was born, and they met in Miami, and they met each other. They got married, and they conceived me. So I grew up in a Colombian culture. I grew up with Colombian parents, and both of their sets of the family always getting together in big groups, almost like a big potluck with Colombian music. And so I kind of I know the culture to an extent, the Colombian culture, but I was raised in Miami, in Hialeah, actually, with a lot of Cubans. And also, Miami is very diverse, so we had many different cultures to learn from, but mostly it was Hispanic. And I grew up in America. As Yuri, we met up at University of Florida, which is an interesting location. But to me, seeing the opportunity that I have had here to learn, to grow, to meet different kinds of people, and then to also see what some of my family lives like in Colombia, it's a huge contrast. It feels different. To me, freedom is the ability to wake up and decide your future, to decide what you're going to do today, what you're going to eat, who you're going to see. And it's liberating. It comes with a huge amount of responsibility if you want to make something of it as well. Freedom is not just everything given to you, because surely my parents had to work very hard. My dad worked 2 or even 3 jobs at some times when I was a kid, just so that my mom could raise us and put food on the table. But the freedom to build your own life. So that's what it means to me.
Yeah, man, I resonate a lot. Being a first generation immigrant and kind of seeing what my parents had to endure in order for me to be in this moment of time. When I reflect on it, it kind of gives me chills a little bit, because thinking from where my grandmother came, how her life played out, my mom's life, and just all the sacrifices that they've made, it makes me really appreciate things. And it's a really good reality check for me too, because in Russia there are a lot of things that people simply don't have that we have here in America. Freedoms, even something as simple as freedom to protest, right? Like recent events, world events showed us that in Russia you can go to jail if you protest, right? I'm not trying to have a political debate But nonetheless, it just makes me realize so many things that so many freedoms and rights that we have in America, and we're blessed to have them. And so for me, I'm very thankful, Michael. I'm very thankful for a lot of things that this country has to offer, and I think it's easy to take it for granted at times, you know? Because I think when you live here for an extended period of time, it seems like everything should be that way. And then you realize, wait, it's actually not the case. You don't have this amount of like this type of freedoms in other countries. You don't have the opportunity to speak your mind openly. You don't have the opportunity to have protection from law for your businesses, for instance, right? There's a lot of things that we have here that other countries don't have. So I'm very thankful. And it's nice to feel that. And it's nice to realize that in the moment, not later on, but in the moment of all the blessings and just how fortunate I am, I would say. So I was actually going to tell everybody my next video. I didn't tell you about it, but my next video was going to be, or is going to be rather, about the death of dating apps. Yesterday, I deleted, deleted Bumble, deleted Hinge. I didn't have Tinder for a while now,
It's
but
a huge loss for the Bumble community. My condolences to the Bumble community.
so I wiped them off. I deleted those actual accounts and I deleted the apps from my phone. It's it. That's it. I'm not coming back. This is the death of the dating apps. And that's probably going to be the title of the next video. Sneak peek. Everybody who's
Yeah.
watching live, you're getting a sneak peek.
I don't know how they
Um,
can recover from this, actually.
well, I was going to ask you, what's your take? I mean, obviously, I can speak on this topic in a little bit, but like, what's your take on it, on the dating apps in general? Um, Nothing else. Nothing else. I'm not going to ask a follow up. Just wanted to kind of get wide open question.
Well, everyone's familiar with Facebook, right? Um, and Facebook started as a project in a college campus, um, as a website that was very similar to hotornot.com. It was back in the day, the beginning of the internet, and it started as a website where you could just post a picture of yourself. It went up on this website, and then it would get rated by other users on a scale from 1 to 10, or hot or not. And then you would get a rating. It would accumulate ratings over time. And then, of course, this website would aggregate and figure out who were the hottest people or who's not the hottest people. And then that turned into sort of a yearbook website. And then that turned into the Facebook. And, sexual appeal sells. It sells products. It's a reason why you always see very attractive people in billboards, in movies, in advertisements. And so when I think about dating apps, they've managed to combine our need, like the human need to be attracted to others or to find attractive people, and to also be seen as attractive. But I think one of the weaknesses of dating apps now, Tinder, Bumble, they've gotten so big. You can search for people across the country. You can, there's money involved, so there's obviously a profit motive for the companies, and it's allowed the market to become virtualized rather than how our brains operate, which is in real life, right? Our brains operate being able to see groups of 50 to 150 people, maybe 150. Every now and then you can gather for a large festival and you see thousands of people. But the fact that people can connect with so many people, I think it gives the average user of a Bumble or a Tinder this analysis of paralysis. It's kind of like if you have a wardrobe and you have 3 outfits you can wear on any given night out, you will know which one to wear. You just pick one. Okay, I wore this one yesterday. I wore that one the day before. I'll just wear this one. If you have a wardrobe with 1,000 outfits you can wear out, it will take you a lot longer to pick an outfit. And I think the same can be said about dating apps, where you can keep swiping left or right for hours And of course, that's the purpose of the dating apps, to keep you logged in, because then they can sell more ads, they can sell more stuff. But what does that do? I think it waters down the nature of human interaction. Human interaction is not supposed to be me seeing pictures of other people, rating them on a superficial level without even having a single conversation and without actually getting feedback from the person. And I'm not completely bashing it. I think it serves a purpose. Many people have probably met their husbands and wives on those apps, but you know, it, there's something very strange happening. There are many weird phenomenon that I think, and that friends have reported back to me, things that are happening. People are a little bit more lonely, a little bit more sad, unless, if they're on those apps, unless they go out and just experience the world, unless you go out to a social setting, a coffee shop, a house party, get together, a dance class. For me, like this is not dating related, but I get a lot of human interaction from going to mixed martial arts gym and training jujitsu with mostly men. Every now and then there's women that I train with, but they have their own class, a women empowerment class. Uh, but that human interaction that I get feels normal. It feels natural. It feels something an important part of the human experience. Whereas the times, many years ago when I was on Tinder, I remember sitting down on my couch, swiping, waiting for that perfect person that I'm going to swipe right on. They're going to swipe right on me. We're going to go on a date. And it was just this, they're selling you this fantasy, where in reality, you create your own reality. You don't need this fantasy. I mean, it might help as a tool if you're new to a city, if you're visiting. But I've seen Tinder turn into more of a meat market, where you just kind of go and find your piece of meat, and rather than cultivating life's social skills. So that's my short take on it. I have a lot more thoughts on it, but that's kind of the gist of what I think about dating apps in general.
Yeah, you hit on two things that I agree with wholeheartedly. So when it comes to those apps becoming businesses, I think it's certainly the case. And I think it kind of escalated over time, because it is mostly about revenue generating for them, right? So I think the way they structure the algorithms and the way that they construct, the dating app experience, it's really aimed at making money. And it's funny enough, because if I wouldn't log in, I noticed something, right? Lately, if I wouldn't log in for a few days, they would sending me like a pop-up notifications like, oh, don't forget the weekend is coming up. Go meet someone, you know, or if there's like, if there's just hasn't been logging for a while, I guess they have their own different ways they track it, right? They might just sometimes say, oh, it's been a while, your next match is awaiting. So it's
Yeah,
like, it's these subtle little reminders, right? That was not prompted by me. It's just done completely based on their algorithm. And I think it works in a way, anytime that you have eyeballs on something, right? This is where money go. Where attention goes, money go. And so for them, as long as they can get people to spend more time on these apps, right, to continue to swipe, they convert some of these users into customers. And I'm not going to lie, I've paid money on it, because for super likes, when you see somebody that you really like, in order for them to see you, you gotta send a super like, and super like costs $2.99.
wow.
Super like isn't free. But now that I talk about it, I'm wondering too if some of these profiles are actually fake, you know, because there's a possibility that some of these profiles are created by some of these apps just to entice, because
Correct.
some of them like look, like, oh my gosh, like, okay, so she's such a good looking lady, she has a career, she has this, that, and the other, and like, I want to meet her, and so like you end up spending money. And then literally, I mean, maybe I would do it once a month. I would buy like, $6 worth of super likes, but none of them ever manifested into anything, right? So it's either they probably overwhelmed, like these women are overwhelmed with these super likes, or perhaps, um Maybe they didn't like what I had to offer, but maybe, who knows, maybe some of them weren't real to begin with, right? So that part of it is there 100%. And this is crazy because it became more of a business, I think, than really human interaction. And then the human interaction aspect that you touched on, man, I couldn't agree more, because it feels so unnatural for a while. Because I'm like you now, I'm taking salsa classes. My community knows that that's what I'm currently doing, and I actually meet a lot of people through this salsa classes, and it feels different to me. It feels like a real human interaction, because that is right. So you're actually meeting people face to face, you interacting with people face to face, and it's sort of like um a breath of fresh air, man. You know, like I didn't even realize how much I was missing this. And I wonder how many people in a similar situation where you're just sitting at home and you're constantly in your screen, right? And you trying to create an authentic interaction through a screen, which is never going to be the same as the interaction face to face, right?
Well, actually, Meta, the Facebook changed their name to Meta. They would argue that all you need is to put on a virtual reality headset, plug into the metaverse, and it's the same community, man. What are you talking about?
Right. Right. That's what they're saying, right?
That's what they're selling you, because they've invested billions and literally billions and tens of billions of dollars into figuring out how they can get humans addicted to their app or their services. And there's nothing wrong with businesses wanting to make more money and getting more attention. That's their prerogative, right? As long as they're not doing anything illegal, I think it's fine. But as a human being, as I said earlier, freedom is great. But with great freedom, I think you also have to take on a good amount of responsibility. And, the first place you need to take responsibility is in your own self. And so when you're talking about taking responsibility for your experience as a human on a day-to-day level, you have to, obviously, first and foremost, you want to think of your health first, right? You want to be eating the right things, you want to be moving your body, you want to be sleeping a good amount, drinking water. But in that equation of health for a human being includes having a tribe of people that you regularly interact with, especially if it's a close-knit tribe of people like the beautiful people of your audience here, the Russian prototype, peace prototype people. If you have a close-knit community, I mean, obviously, ideally, you would meet up in person if you can. Obviously, some people are all over the world, so, you do what you can. But every human being should have a community where you get to interact in person and see people, see their facial expressions, just like the physical touch. You give somebody a hug. I mean, I would be surprised if we can ever replicate the emotion that you get from giving a friendly person a hug or receiving a hug, if you could replicate that virtually with whatever is coming next. I mean, I know Elon Musk is coming up with this Neuralink device where they cut out a piece of your skull the size of a quarter, and they put this implant that interfaces with your brain, and they're going to be able to receive signals from your brain, and eventually they're going to be able to send signals into your brain. And I don't know that that's ever going to be successful. Maybe in 100 years, 1,000 years, I don't know how long it'll take. But at the end of the day, we're human beings. And I think we need that in-person community on a regular basis. For some people, it might be more frequent. I know extroverts are defined by people who get energy by being around people. They actually feel like it's like we have a social battery pack. Some people fill up their social battery pack by being with other people. And other people, introverts, fill up that social battery pack by being alone or by being with a couple other people that they know and trust, and that's it, and just spending time by themselves so that they can then go and use that. So, but either way, you can't escape the in-person interaction. And I think that by starting your first impression with someone in person, you're already on the right foot. When you start your interaction with someone, like from a dating perspective online, to me, it feels a little bit more judgy. Like you're kind of like, all right, does this person check these boxes? All right, cool. Then, okay, now I'll send the text. Then they responded to me. Okay, now I'll see if I can meet up with them. And then you meet up with them. And if they're not If what you get in real life when you meet them is not what you were thinking when you were on the app, then you might be let down. You might be disappointed. You're going to waste a lot of time where you could just go out, social setting, meet people, and you get to interact on a more. You have a lot more information. The body language that you get from people in real life, you get a lot more information. So
Yeah, and as far as the real interaction goes, funny enough, there's a number of people that seen my YouTube videos would reach out to me on Instagram, and one young lady reached out literally on Thursday, and she's dating a guy from Russia, and she was asking, well, we have a good time, but he doesn't respond to me, and I thought that we were on the same page, that he wanted to talk to me. And so she went in telling me like what her situation was. But the bottom line was that there was not enough communication via text, not enough phone calls, right? And I told her, I said, look, and I remember living in Russia. Granted, my point of reference, the 90s, right? So things could have changed. I'm sure they did. But I said, in general, we use not text messaging back then, but phone calls back then, is to simply to set a time to meet. Like I was never trying to spend extended amount of time on the phone unless there was a reason why I couldn't see you, right? So I think, and especially thinking now about text messaging, right? I know for a fact if I was dating someone right now and my girlfriend wanted to just talk on the text messages all the time, that would drive me pretty nuts too. Because how much conversation can you have via text messaging all the time? I mean, to
right.
me personally, it's exhausting. I can't, like, I think the whole premise of text messaging is to be able to communicate quickly. Did you get there? Good. What time do we meet? 8:30. Cool. See you then. What can I get from a grocery store? Cool. What time are we going to see the movie, right? It's not, in my opinion, it's not meant to have an hour, 1 hour and a half, 2 hour, whatever this time frame conversation, sitting there on a text message, looking at your screen. I just think it's exhausting. I don't think it's effective communication because, for one thing, as you know, you can easily misread something via text, right? You don't hear the tone of voice, you don't see the body language that person is portraying, so you don't know exactly sometimes what the intent of the message is. So I think it's also important from a man's perspective, at least from mine. I don't want to have these lengthy text conversations. And I told her, that lady who was contacting me on Instagram, I said, that's how we use the phone back in the day. Like, find a way to spend more time with him face to face. Like, don't expect him that he's just going to, take initiative to text you and be happy about texting you for extended period of time, especially he's an introvert. Because I know for me personally, it wouldn't work at all, man.
I agree with that. I think texting is. I agree with you on the texting thing because although texting can be a fun way to touch base. Hey, how you doing? Cool, good. Hey, when are we gonna meet up next? That kind of thing, or logistics. It's a very quick way just to exchange necessary pieces of information. But yeah, I mean, if you're spending, in my opinion, if you're spending an hour or two texting and you live close by enough that you could just meet up and hang out with that person for an hour, why not just meet up and hang out? You get a lot more, human interaction that way. But yeah, and I also I think men and women are hardwired differently. So I think as men we look at things from a more problem solving perspective. So if someone's texting you, for me, if someone's texting me, I'm trying to figure out, okay, what problem do I need to solve or what information do I need to find for this person? Boom, boom, boom. Just find it, send it, cool, continue on with my life. I'm not thinking that I'm going to build a relationship with people just texting, send a paragraph, they send a couple paragraphs, I send a paragraph. It's like you're writing novels to each other. What, for me, I'd rather just meet up in person. Like, hey, let's go to the movies. Hey, let's go to the beach. Let's go get some coffee. Let's go to the mall. Let's whatever it is. I enjoy that time a lot more. And the older I get, the more I value how I spend my time. If I'm not working on my health, and if I'm not resting, then I'm trying to build something. I'm either working on something like for work, or I'm looking for something productive to do. And hanging out with my best friends and family, like that makes me happy. So I will gladly do that in person. But I find myself using text messages a lot less. And when I do actually try to batch them, I try not to actually turn off notifications on my phone. Um, so when I put my phone on silent, nothing comes through unless I actually pick up my phone and look at it. Right. So I will batch to the point where I will sit at work and I'll work for 2 hours. Then I'll get up to take a quick break, or maybe every hour. Then if I have a couple text messages, I'll send something back real quick, put it down, take a bathroom break, eat something, whatever, come back to my computer. I wouldn't even look at my phone, but I used to have the notifications on. So this device that came into human evolution very recently in the last 10 15 years now has the permission to just disturb you at all times. Like you're sitting there and it's just like wah, wah, and you're kind of forced to look in some ways, or at least that's what we're programmed to do. Some people can detach a lot better, but if something is vibrating, flashing, calling my attention, I'm going to want to touch it. And
Yeah.
it doesn't allow for a deep interaction with whatever you're doing. Whether it's with your work, you can get into just deep work where you can give the best of your talents, or whether if you're on a dinner date with someone and your phone is and you're like, you feel like taking your phone out just to see it, but you have somebody right in front of you. Like, that's number one, that's very disrespectful. And unless I'm waiting for an emergency, like, I try not to do it. I've been doing it a lot less. And eventually, like, my actually some of the best dates I've done, whether it's with my guy friends or with my girlfriend, is where I by mistake leave my phone at home or in the car. And so I'm out in public and I'm, hanging out, having a great time, and an hour goes by and I reach for my phone just because, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, I left my phone in my car. And then there's this feeling of like, what next?
Emptiness, right?
Yeah, but that's good. That emptiness, that almost boredom, that stuff is good. If you can leave your phone at home and go for a walk for an hour, you're probably doing all right. If you have to take your phone everywhere you go, you should question that and think about why it is that you have a new organ that has to be with you at all times. So, yeah, it's something to think about.
Yes. And what I've been doing too, even if you take your phone, put it on the airplane mode. And
Airplane
so,
mode, yeah,
yeah, and just listen to some music. So that way you don't get notifications. Nothing comes
right.
through. So you can still, reach out, to whomever, or if it's an emergency, you can have it with you, but you're not actively engaged with the device. You disconnect from the device intentionally.
Yeah.
I wanted to give shout out to all the members that we have right now with us here live. We have Yvonne, we have Daphne, we have Valerie, we have Jamie. Shout out to all of you. Appreciate you very, very much. We also looks like have Lindsay here with us. We have Olga, we have Christine. If you're just joining us, be sure to smash that like button. Don't be a ghost watcher. And leave me a comment in the live chat with your thoughts about what's being discussed. Looks like Jamie asked what the topic is. There is no topic. We kind of having a conversation and seeing where it takes us. We started talking about dating apps, and then we transitioned to the technology aspect of things. Looks like Valerie had a question. Do you think with the newer generations that because they all text for hours, that is why they have no social interaction skills? I think there is a correlation. And I think what's happening right now, the technology progresses at the unprecedented rate because we can adjust to how quickly things are changing technologically, right? So even take the apps that we discussed, like some of the dating apps within 7 years, literally, because I remember, like, I think they came on the scene. I know Mike talked about Facebook being, emerging from a dating app, but like, if you looking at the mainstream ones like Tinder and Bumble and the all other ones, they came within the last 10 years. And think what within the, all the things that happened within the last 10 years. Now you can meet somebody instantaneously, but even from a technological standpoint, you can interact with someone through your device without leaving your house by looking at the screen the entire time, right? Think how it changed the dynamic of interaction altogether. Whereas before, you had to force yourself, even if you were an introvert, you had to force yourself to go out and to talk with someone. Well, now you don't have to. It's actually socially acceptable now for you to have this type of interaction. It's not like somebody going to judge you in the Western countries, US and Canada, that is, that you are on a dating app. Like, you're not going to be shamed for it. It's a normal thing. So I think you're talking about technological shift, but you're also talking about societal shift to a great degree, to where, fine, you want to do that, you have freedom to do that. However, even using my own example, you are growing. I was going to say you're growing cold. You're turning cold. But you are becoming detached socially from other individuals. And they became apparent to me now that I am, taking this social classes, and I am around individuals and having this face-to-face communication interaction. And it's interesting because it seems like I was missing something, right? I have something now that was not in my life, but at the same time, um, it feels, at the time when I was missing it, like that device replaced it. And that's the danger of it, right? The danger of it is that you can get caught into this technological matrix. You end up being in this um, place where you can interact with people um, virtually, but it's just never going to be the same as face-to-face interaction. And the thing is, Valerie, to your point, I think it does impact your interaction social skills to a great degree, because you can practice the same social skills via the phone, because the text interactions just isn't the same. And people, a lot of times, when what I would do, Valerie, on purpose, I would ask some of my matches, hey, would you be open to have a video conversation through this app? I wasn't asking for the numbers, but through this app. So that way, we can have at least a closer face-to-face interaction type of experience. And you know what happened in a lot of cases? Um, some of them said, yeah, it's a good idea, but never came back. Some of them never responded and then just unmatched me. And and some of them, like, I've had one or two of these interactions, so there was a very low percentage of people who actually were willing to do it and follow through with it. So from my own experience, the majority of people that I've interacted with on the dating apps, they were not even open to the idea of virtual face-to-face chat. Now, again, I'm not going to say and make 100% defined conclusions on that, but that's, to me, it's concerning. Like, if I'm going to take that data point that I've had from my own experience and extrapolate something from it forward, if we're going to have this kind of trajectory, then we on the collision course with, I don't even know what, just lack of interaction and people becoming just comfortable, and not just comfortable, but they are becoming not satisfied, content with their devices. And I think that, to me, that's alarming. What do you think, Mike?
I think it is alarming. I think that as humans become more dependent on technology, on smart devices, um, in some ways, I think we get less intelligent. Right? The intelligence isn't just problem solving. It isn't just IQ and math and science. Intelligence is also emotional intelligence, and especially for young people, if your brain is still developing and it's learning how to interact with other human beings, and you get very little human interaction, then your brain is not going to develop. Like, you're going to become more of a cyborg, basically, because you're going to be dependent on technology, on machines, in order to interact with other humans rather than just interacting with the humans directly. So it is what it is, right? That's reality. I mean, I'm not going to go into what should be, but if you're going to take personal responsibility for that phenomenon, right? There's always been black holes, right? There's always been where black holes of attention where people go and spend. Like for example, there's always been the ability for people to go and gamble and spend a lot of time gambling and just focusing on that and wasting all their money. And it's the same thing. Like dating apps are a form of gambling, but you're gambling with your emotions and your attention. You're putting in your time
Mm.
and your emotions and attention in something, thinking you're going to get a big payout. You're going to find somebody that's like perfect. And most of the time, most people do not meet the ideal person because they're creating the ideal person based off of all these interactions. And people are not ideals. People are individuals. People are flawed. People have weaknesses. And as a human being, you learn to interact with everyone and appreciate everyone's flaws and everyone's weaknesses and your own flaws and your own weaknesses. And by doing that, we actually, that's what it means to be a human. If we weren't, then we would be gods, right? It would be literally, we would be like angels or something. But we're not. We're flawed human beings. And so when we go online and we start nitpicking flaws on other humans, I'm not going to swipe left on this person because they have I don't know, like they're like my eye, this eye, it like goes down a little bit, right? Someone will look at my picture. If there's like a thousand people swiping, they'll look at, oh, his face is not completely symmetrical, so I'm going to swipe left. They will never know what it would be like to have a conversation with me, etc. And so there's all these little flaws that you can pick on other people. Whereas if you were out, for example, I go out to a salsa class, you get paired up with there's 10 people, 5 guys, 5 girls. You get paired up with a random girl. If you go by yourself, you get paired up with a random guy. If you're a girl, you say, hi, my name is so-and-so. Hi. You're forced to grab hands and practice a basic step, right? Basic step. You practice that for a couple minutes. You're looking the person in the face. The person's like literally a couple feet from you. And then they say, okay, switch partners. All the girls switch. So the girls move or the guys move, however it is. Now you're forced to interact with another person and you're getting the whole human being. And you do that when you go out in person. Obviously, there's different levels of distance. If you're out somewhere, you can't just go up to somebody and get in their face. But in a dance class, that's expected. Whereas in a text message, what you're interacting with is not the person. You think you're interacting with the person because you're sending a text. They receive the text message. They read the text message. They interpret your text message. They send you a text message back. You receive that piece of text and you interpret their text message. So there's this huge barrier in the middle, which dilutes the quality of the interaction by a lot. And it's impossible to overstate it. It's impossible to, like, I was thinking about what you were saying, about how, this is, decreasing the quality of the interactions. And that's a very mild way to put it. If you, like, for example, if you look at a lot of scientists have been studying the effects of technology on children during the times where COVID-19 first came around and people had to, stay at their homes, and the effects on children when they had to stay home rather than go to school, or, all these things that made people stay home and they got way less social interaction. And that's, adults, we can deal with it, right? But to kids, I mean, it's done a lot worse things to kids, as far as developing socially. And so if you just look at that last, 2.5 years, 3 years, you look at that, you can already see a huge impact. Now imagine people interacting with devices for a decade or 2 decades where they could have been interacting face to face. I think it's we don't even know what we're getting ourselves into, is what I would say to that.
Well, and the concerning part about all of this is that this is just the beginning. This is just the tip of the iceberg. I've seen kids at the airport. I'm talking like, man, they must have been 4, 5, maybe even 3 years old. They like have iPads and they just interact with their iPods more so than with their parents. It's like a parent's way to say, well, here's the iPad. That my kid could be focused on whatever's going on, a cartoon or video, whatever, in this iPad, and I don't have to be concerned with his or her attention. But I think the concerning part to me personally is that what is going to manifest itself into, right? Because that is something that your kid is going to get used to. Your kid's growing up with the electronic devices. And I'm not saying that I think occasional use is bad, but I think if when a kid spends majority of his or her time on that device in that early stage, right? Man, I have a bad feeling about it, man. I have a bad feeling because, to your point, I mean, as humans, we meant to interact socially with one another. And I think to some extent, like, devices are going to replace this human interaction. And once you develop, right, your main development years is like in childhood. So if in childhood you're going to use electronic device extensively for a number of years, then you're not going to be the same person socially that you could have been if you interacted with people. And that has real world consequences, because for one thing, you're not going to be able to interact with other human beings effectively face to face, right? Your communication is going to be altered greatly by that. And so, you know, the question I think in my mind is that, what is going to be um, benefit, like cost to what they call it, cost to benefit ratio, that
Yeah,
we're
the
going
cost
to
benefit.
huh
Yeah, you're right. The cost benefit analysis.
yeah. What is going to be cost to benefit ratio down the road? Is it going to be worth it, right? Because I think on one hand, we need to be technologically advanced. We need to be able to use devices and be proficient with these devices. That's understood. That's the way that world is going right now. There is no getting away from it. But on another hand, we need to be able to find this balance. We can't be tipping the scales so heavily on one side of it where the other side doesn't get any attention, because I think that's a dangerous territory if we do.
Yeah, man. I mean, that the world is so big that we could go on talking about what the effects are going to be. I mean, the effects are going to be what they are. I mean, there's hardly anything that you or I as individuals could do to impact the whole world, but you know, we can take responsibility for how technology affects us individually. You know, there's this idea that I've been thinking about, which is it's on along the lines of taking responsibility, right? There's a lot of power that you can generate if you realize, if you wake up to the fact that you can take responsibility for a lot in your life. And so one of the areas is the area of the idea of curating your information diet, right? We have a diet where we eat food and we choose what foods we eat, and depending on the foods that we eat, we will either be healthy or not, or some spectrum in the middle. And I think that we have so much access to information because of, you know, iPads, tablets, iPhones, TV, all sorts of ways we can interact with information. Books is one way, but you know, not hardly many people still read great books to this day. But if you can curate, in other words, you can decide what information you consume on a regular basis, how much time you spend consuming information versus creating something in your life. You can actually take responsibility for that in your own life. And the way that you behave affects the people around you. When people see you taking time to say, hey, no, I don't want to watch that. Hey, no, I don't want to do this. I'm going to do this instead. Or people just watch the way that you act. People learn from that. You know, a lot of the times I think as humans, we don't like to be told what to do, but if we see something and it inspires us, we're more willing to change. And so when you curate your own information that you're taking in on a daily basis, you will actually change the experience that you have in your day-to-day life. So, you know, for example, in the last few weeks, I realized that I was scrolling mindlessly on Instagram and sometimes on Facebook. And I realized, what am I getting from this? How am I benefiting? Sure, there's you know, this little thirst for new information, new, like, news, what's going on, what are other people doing, what vacations are other people going on that I'm not going on, what new cars are other people buying that I'm not buying, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I realized, wait a minute, I'm putting a lot of my time into this and I'm not getting that much back. So I did an experiment. I read this book called Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport. And he suggests that, you know, most social media, if you're just consuming and you're not creating, if all you're doing is consuming, you're at a net cost. The benefit versus the cost, the benefit is a lot lower than the cost, which is higher, because your time is very valuable. So so basically I decided to deactivate my Instagram completely. If you go to my Instagram account, at Mike Iglesias, you'll see profile not found. And I can bring it back anytime. I can put my password and log in. And of course, they want me to come back. So they make it hard to find the button that says temporarily deactivate. I deactivated my Instagram, my Facebook, deleted my Snapchat app. And I sent a message to all my friends and I said, hey, look, I'm going to be getting off this. If you want to reach me, send me a text. Better if you call me, even better if we can just meet up in person. Right. And I still have WhatsApp. Because I have people internationally that I need to still contact. But I've noticed I have a lot more free time. I mean, a lot more free time, especially mental space, where if I'm sitting and I'm like not doing anything, I'm bored. I'm like, what am I going to do? Before, if I was bored, I could just put my phone out, scroll, refresh my newsfeed, and I have a couple hundred new posts I can see, and that'll satisfy that boredom temporarily. But now, since I can't do that, I have to sit and go, I'm bored. What am I going to do? And it forces me to think, okay, what is the most productive thing I can use my time for right now? And it feels a lot more on purpose to do it that way, to force myself to be bored and then have to actually do the things that are going to benefit my life rather than just mindlessly pick up this shiny new, every time it's like the shiny new object phenomenon. You're looking for something cool to see. And that can be fun for a while, but if you really think about it, it'd be very difficult to write down what are the hard benefits of that kind of, easy access to information.
And to your point, there is also this factor of unlimited information that is available now. Because if you on your Instagram and you in your news feed, or let's say better yet, you in Reels, Instagram Reels feed, you're never going to get to an end. So that's why I was saying earlier, we living in a time of such a rapid change. In the past, even when YouTube was created, you've had a limited number of videos on YouTube. So right now, you have so much content on these social media platforms that you cannot possibly consume. You can literally spend your life scrolling. You can just go get a breakfast, then scroll 3 or 4 hours. Then you can take a little break, take lunch, then scroll 3 or 4 hours. Then you can maybe send an email, work email. Then you can scroll. And the thing is, think how dangerous that is. If you don't have self-control, or if you don't have some measures set up intentionally by you that's going to prevent you and hold you accountable in that regard, then you can spend your life scrolling even now. And that's just the beginning of this age, digital age. So it's a dangerous thing. We got to be mindful of what we're doing and how much time we're spending. And to your point, Mike, what is the benefit? Because I also caught myself just mindlessly scrolling sometimes and watching videos that, yeah, they fun and they entertaining, but it's not. It's a poor investment, right?
Yeah. And I would challenge anyone to actually give us that answer. What is the benefit? What benefit do you think that you're getting from spending more than 10 minutes a day on social media? Right? Like, actually, type it in the chat, if you can tell us. I'm curious to know, because I've looked for that answer and I haven't found it.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Looks like Daphne said, but think many introverts prefer writing. Many have social anxiety and don't even like calls. Writing provides safety and the benefits of communication. And it's not to say that writing isn't good or you shouldn't do it. I think my point pertaining to writing, the text messages in particular, and utilizing your electronic device, was the fact that I don't want that to replace human interaction. I think that should be, cherry on top. Or, of course, if you're a writer and you do it for a living, that's different. If you are using writing as a hobby, as something to ease your mind, that's different. Like, there are different circumstances, right, and situations that not going to be created equal. But when I think about being in, your face being buried in your electronic device and using that electronic device as means of communication with another human being, I can no longer justify it. I just can't. I think that should be in my opinion, that should give you opportunity to schedule something, to meet, to spend face to face time, because that's what makes us human. So to me, like utilizing technology in a way that's not going to take over your life, but in a way that's going to add to your life.
Yeah, and more on that introvert side. There's this book, this powerful book that came out. Actually, I'll grab it for you real quick. The book written by Susan Cain. This one, the power of introverts in a world that can't stop talking. It's a really powerful book, New York Times bestseller. I read this whole thing because I am an introvert. I had to work very hard to surround myself with extroverted people since I was like 14 years old to actually learn how to not feel super anxious talking to strangers, talking to other people. I mean, it was years and years and years of hard work. I'm not naturally extroverted. I'd rather spend time by myself on a hammock reading a book with my dog next to me, maybe with one or two close friends. I don't like being in large crowds for too long, unless it's at a music festival, because then I can just zone out and listen to the music. That being said, writing is great. I think writing is a powerful tool. Everyone should journal their experience every day. Everyone should be journaling at the end of every day. What happened, what stood out, what you learned, what you did, how you feel, et cetera, et cetera. It's a really great tool for getting your thoughts on paper, developing your thinking, getting to know yourself, staying on track, et cetera, et cetera. That being said, even introverts gain something priceless from being around other human beings. Doesn't mean you have to be the loudest one in the group. Doesn't mean you have to be the one speaking and directing and leading and all this stuff. But if you are with a group as an introvert, if you're with a group of 3 or 4 other people that you trust, that you love, who know you, and you've developed a relationship with, there is something that you can't get from just texting them or from just, whatever, digitally interfacing with them. And if you think that you're an introvert and you think that you would rather just be by yourself all the time, then I would question that. I would say, hey, but so why can't you go and spend time with other people? What comes up for you? Is it anxiety? Is it fear? Is it doubt? Is it insecurity, depression? Like, what is it? Because, personally, as an introvert, I don't think it's a good idea to simply be by yourself all the time and interact digitally with the world only. I think that will be to your detriment. You could be a lot more. You could impact the world. You can gain a lot more from the world if you find the niches that you would thrive in the outside world. So that's what I would say about that.
Yvonne said, I have a focus made schedule from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and only see notifications unless I look at it. Interestingly enough, Yvonne, when I have my phone away from me during my workday and when I intentionally put it somewhere where I cannot reach it, my productivity goes up. Like it works like clockwork, and and so this is also an important note to make, because if you are experiencing a similar type of thing, then that's a writing on the wall for you that electronic device has a direct impact. And if it has a direct impact on productivity, right, it makes me wonder what else it can be impacting in our life. But this is a really good idea, because that's just putting matters in your own hands, so to speak, right? You don't rely on just discipline, because sometimes I think to myself, well, if I'm just disciplined, if I'm just like tough enough, if I'm strong enough mentally, like I should be able just to overcome it. And then a notification comes in and I'm like, oh, who is that? So
Yeah.
like that, you can ensure yourself, so to speak, to not have to rely on your power of will, because I would argue that sometimes it's unnecessary sacrifice to make or test to endure when you can just simply put your phone away and then see what happens, right? You can do experiments for yourself with your electronic devices. It's not like your electronic device has to be there, unless of course there are exceptions. Maybe if you expecting a call, if whatever, situations different situations happen. But I think in majority of cases, I mean, you can be okay without your phone. Like if you physically feeling sick without your phone being next to you, that's a problem in and in itself, you know, because we shouldn't be that dependent on our phone. Like that just doesn't sound healthy at all to me. Mike, I know you're smiling, so you have something to add to that.
Yeah, and so I experimented with this because I have a little bit of ADD. I get distracted easily. I'm so curious about so many things, and of course, your phone is a source of a lot of information and get notifications. I bought this box. It's called the Kitchen Safe Timer Box. It's a hard plastic box with a lid and it has a lock, right? And you can set a timer on it. So I one day I decided to put my phone in it when I had to work, and I locked my phone in the box for 4 hours. And there's no way to open it unless you get a hammer and you break the whole thing. But then you lost the $50 that it costs you to buy it. So you probably you're incentivized not to break the device to get your phone. But I did this experiment, locked it for 4 hours, and I noticed I was angry. Like after an hour, I was like, oh, I just want to grab my phone. I just want to. What did I do to myself? And I got mad at myself for locking it in it. And it was this weird, really. It's like an addict came alive and was mad at the fact that his little juice box, his little dopamine box was locked inside the box and he couldn't grab it. So then eventually you just kind of realize, okay, I just have to wait. And so I just started working, and I got more done in those 4 hours than I did in like a couple days before. And I said, wow, it's almost impossible sometimes to realize how much we get distracted from our phones and how much we're losing. There's a huge cost to just being distracted by consuming and waiting to find out what somebody messages you. And it's not a good way to develop a relationship with technology, in my opinion. I think there are better ways to develop a relationship with technologies and how they can serve us, because otherwise we become slaves to the tech nerds, the tech overlords who create these apps and make them as addicting as casino slots.
Yeah, it's most certainly a gift and a curse. And gift in the sense that think about all the amazing things we can do with it. Think about how the device simplifies our lives, right? I mean, we can do just about anything now, man. Like when I reflect on it, like I can I can book a trip overseas right now with my phone. I can pay my bank statement with my phone. I can make a video with my phone, man. I can make a FaceTime call with my phone. Like it's an amazing tool, right? But if we're not careful, then it can become an addiction device to where we just like we have these impulses, right? We just operate on impulses, like, oh, I'm on notification. Let me see who it is. And that just, man, now that you were talking about it, like I was thinking about it more, like how much time, like if I actually had the time, exact precise number of minutes I spent, I don't even want to know, Mike. I'm going to make intentional effort right now, starting tomorrow. Starting
Sure.
tomorrow on Independence Day, I'm going to become more independent from my phone. God dang it. That's the
Yes.
goal. This conversation inspired me because, like, all jokes aside, I don't think that we realize how much time we spend on our phone. And I don't mean like meaningful conversations or interactions. I'm talking like probably mindless scrolling and social media browsing. I know I'm guilty of it for sure, 100%. So it's going to be an adjustment for sure for me. But you know what? Dating apps are gone. Now I have to become a better man. That's just a part of becoming a better man, a better human being, because I cannot be my best version of myself if I'm being distracted constantly and operating on impulses from my phone. So that's it.
Yeah, one of the most successful people in the world right now, our boy Elon Musk. He runs many successful businesses at one time, and he's a workaholic. He works 100-hour work weeks. But one of the tools he says, if you want to get the most out of your day, one of the things he does, he actually schedules his entire day in 5-minute increments. Every 5-minute block in his waking life has something. So he'll have a 5-minute meeting, and then a different 5 minute meeting, and then a different 5 minute meeting, and then obviously there's like also long periods of time you have to spend. But I've started to work with this, not 5 minutes, because I'm not that's like expert level productivity, but I've been doing 30-minute blocks where I'll get my calendar on my phone, on my Google Calendar, and I'll every 30 minutes blocks has an intention. This 30 minutes I'm going to eat. I'm going to have my meal. I'm going to go for a walk to digest better. I'm going to stretch, and then the next 30 minutes I'm going to go back to work. And I'll work for 30 minutes. I'll stand up. I'll take a wiggle around, whatever stretch. I'll work for 30, and I'll have like a 2-hour block where it's 4 30-minute work blocks. And then I'll do something else. I'll go to the gym or whatever it is. And I noticed that I get a lot more out of my day that way. And getting the phone away from you is a huge tip. If you've never done that, for anyone listening, if you've never sat down to work and actually put your phone like in another room, until you do that, you don't really know how addicted you are to your phone, because you will sit down, some people might be less addicted, but you might catch yourself sitting down to work and then reaching, like your arm just involuntarily just tries to reach for wherever you normally put your phone. And you'll see how much you actually are programmed to depend on your phone for whatever it is, for attention, for information, dopamine hits. So yeah.
Man, we're going deep on these topics, yo. This has been awesome so far. We talk about everything, literally. We talk about dating. We talk about online apps, dating. We're talking about technology. We talk about how phone affects your life. We are doing a 4th of July weekend special. So everyone who's joining us, thank you so much. Be sure to smash the like button. Be sure to engage with us through the live chat. We're just going through your comments and trying to give you our thoughts on some of the things that you are mentioning. Huge shout out to Janaina, I think I pronounced it correctly, for $5 super thanks for my last video that you left a comment with the super thanks. Thank you so much. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I really, really appreciate that. That means the world to me. Looks like Jamie said, I know that meeting my guy added to our relationship in so many ways. We are closer now than before, and we understand each other better now. But we had a 1.5 years of online. Yeah, we talked about online dating before. It's very interesting as well, the dynamic of dating online. And, I think that it works for some people. And Jamie, shout out to you for making the trip all the way to Kazakhstan. I think you went. And that, I think it takes a lot. It takes a lot of not what's the word I'm looking for? Just bravery, because you're going to another country. You're unfamiliar with it. You're meeting somebody that you never met before. You never really, at the end of the day, know with 100% certainty who that person is, right? Or who that person could be. So props to you for doing that. Online dating could work, but I think there's certain people that must be involved in it. There's a certain commitment level that has to be there presently. And because I also seen a number of situations where unfortunately scammers using online dating as a means to get money and get profited from other people. So for sure. Looks like Olga said, I think sometimes it's more nerve-wracking to do a video conversation than a real face-to-face meeting. I find face-to-face meeting easier. Well, it's interesting, because the reason I was asking people to do a video conversation through the dating app previously is because it's a safe method in terms of saving time. You don't have to drive somewhere. You don't have to meet a person that you don't know in person, right? But you can still have this next level of interaction, so to speak, from just text messaging. So to me, it's still relatively safe, because how much harm could be done via face-to-face communication? Yeah, I guess I can make face, or I can say something mean to you, but but that could be done via text messaging as well. So I think to each their own with that. But in my experiences, it's really added to the interaction. It helped me to see who the person was. And quite frankly, it actually helps to know whether or not I'm interested in the second date. Let's see. Yvonne said, I think that the same rules apply if you online that apply in person. If someone walked in the room, you wouldn't just ignore them. You would acknowledge them, greet them. Jamie said, social isolation is not a good thing. There is no ability to hear sarcasm or empathy. Even video calls lack body language. You only get facial body language. It isn't a good way to interact forever. No, most certainly not. I wasn't suggesting that it would be a good way to interact for extended period of time, but I think it's a good option to start the conversation, to see someone's face as opposed to continuing to interact via text message forever. So I think it can help you build a bridge, so to speak, to a potential meeting, because you can see the actual person, you can see the mannerism, you can see the body language. If you're nice, presumably you will have a better chance to land a date in an actual meeting. Let's see. I'm just looking through the comments, see what else is going on. Shout out to everyone who's joining us. Be sure to smash this like button. Be sure to engage with us via the live chat. Another one from Jamie. The same moderation in all things holds a lot more value than people realize, I think. Yvonne said, I was noticing that my mind was constantly wandering. It's deceptive because it feels productive, but it's not. Well, that's the thing with that too, right? With what technology does, what these apps and instant access to information does, it overloads your brain. Because now all of a sudden, I noticed that when I would work and I would be focused on my work, and then I would get notification, and then my focus shifts. It's like you break in this type of attention that you established already, right? So if you think of attention as like a tangible thing that exists, right, in the form of a hand that you can grab something with, right? If you are looking at your phone and you are start reading something or paying attention to something else, it's like you break in that hand. You no longer have the grasp of that invisible hand on something that you were doing before. And that's a real thing, because then it's not only the time lost in the moment, but it's the time that you need to be able to get back in that place of attention that you've had, that you already established. Let's see. Liz said, make tomorrow our personal Independence Day. Change some habits that smother our freedoms. Yeah, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. In the beginning of this live talk, I mentioned that I am no longer on dating apps. And by the way, look out for the upcoming video about that I will go deeper on why I deleted them. And I most certainly think that Independence Day, half of the year mark, is a good opportunity for us to take inventory of what we're doing well and what we don't do well, and what habits needs to be cut out from our lives. I made sure I had a lot of safeguards. The bravery part was meeting and seeing if we were a match that was more scary than the trip. Yes. And there's a lot of work. That's so much work that goes into online dating, to be able to do all the safeguards and get to know someone and do background check and everything. So most definitely, I don't know how many people really think about it deeply. Can you hear the thunder?
Yeah, I heard that.
That's
It sounded like
that's
somebody was moving furniture upstairs.
it's scary here, man. Very scary. It's like nothing but a gray sky. Jo said, I get anxiety from using too much phone. I hope we can go back to more of life before cell phones or somewhat of it. I fear that collectively speaking, life will never be the same. But I'm optimistic at the same time. I'm very optimistic that as long as we as people, as individuals, realize how important this interaction is and how important to maintain this human connection is, I think we can manage it. Mike and I talked about, being in the groups of people. He's taking jiu-jitsu classes, I'm taking salsa classes, and how different that feels when you actually able to interact with people face to face, and when you've been around people in these groups. I feel better. I'm being completely honest with you. I feel better. I feel like I've had a human interaction in my life, so I can come back not only moving my body, but um, being fulfilled from having other human beings in there with me. So it's a very interesting thing, right? To where, again, as I mentioned before, I didn't know how much I was missing until you actually start doing it again. And I think it's necessary, and I think that it's going to come down to personal responsibility for humans, because technology only going to continue to expand and get more sophisticated and less human if we allow it to do so. Well, what's up with all the weather in Florida, man? if you live in
That's Florida
Florida,
for you.
if you live in Florida,
Hurricane
you
season.
might wake up to a beautiful sunny day with a few clouds, and by the time it hits 1 p.m., you will feel like you in the Twister movie. you know,
Oh
it's
yeah.
like a completely different scenery. The skies are gray. There's no sun inside. It's pouring down thunder. Realize summer in Florida is a hurricane season and rainy season. So that's what we get over here. Is it raining over there in Tampa right now?
No, it's a beautiful day. I'm sure it'll rain at some point today, though.
Yeah, we were going to do a beach day today, but weather had different plans for us.
It's unpredictable, man. It's unpredictable. You got to be ready for anything.
Yes, yes, 100%. Um, yeah, I mean, how you doing on time?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good. I have the day off. Just enjoying a day of conversation with one of my best buds.
I know, likewise, man. I appreciate you and the opportunity to do this with you live. I always enjoy these conversations, and I enjoy that we can go one or two level deep on some of these things. So the depth of these conversations, that's what's really rewarding and awesome to me personally, because you know I think we can talk about experiences, and I also think we can imagine some things. We can make educational guesses about some of these things, and of
True.
course interacting with my amazing community is always a blast. So as far as this year being halfway done so far, right, what's your take on 22 so far? What are the highlights? What are the main takeaways? um what's coming next?
Hmm. Well, I think there are lots of opportunities. You can look at anything as a glass half full, glass half empty, and you can also look to upgrade your cup and have a bigger glass to pour into. Um, and there's lots of opportunity for distraction as well, to get lost in the chaos. There's lots of chaos, and this year more than ever, I've realized that I am the source of order in my life, and I can let myself get sucked into the chaos, or I can create some sense of order in my home, in my work life, in my social life, etc., etc. And if you know what you want, or at least a little bit of what you want, you can start executing on that. And the more you execute on improving the quality of your life, the more knowledge you will have, so you will know better. The more you know, then that can improve how your execution, and you can do better. And the more, like, it's just a self-reinforcing feedback loop. You know more so that you can do more, and once you do more, then you can know more, etc. It just keeps going on forever. And this year, I'm endeavoring to let go of, many of the things that are holding me back, and distraction is definitely one of them. So getting independence from distraction requires something of equal or greater value to replace it with. So, we do get something in return for being on a social media app. We actually do. I mean, there's an emotional payoff of, I call it just dopamine payoff, but there's a sense of reward when you find out something new, something in the news happened, something crazy happened, a friend is doing something new, whatever it is, there is an emotional payoff. But the emotional payoff of achieving something in your life, something formidable, whether it's, if you're trying to lose weight, losing 5 pounds, and then doing it again the next month, losing another 5 pounds, and then losing another 5 pounds. Within a year, you lose 60 pounds in a year. That's a huge payoff, not just emotional, but in the real life. For me, I'm trying to gain weight. I have a different problem. I'm trying to gain some muscle weight because I've been seeing myself as skinny my whole life, basically. So I've been trying to gain weight, but pretty much anything. And for me, like, I've noticed that the more fluff I can get rid of, the more distraction, and then replace it intentionally with something that provides a little bit of an instant gratification, but really more of a long-term payoff. That's where I'm at. So, the first half of the year is gone, and it's gone by fast, man. It's gone. I don't know about you, but this year for me it's like really fast. I've accomplished some things. I've also fallen short in some things. And, this is a good time to reset. We got a holiday tomorrow, and, every day is a good day to start. Don't ever wait for some special day to start. Today is the day. Today is the day you can change anything. Today's the only day you can act. You can't act on yesterday, and you can't act on tomorrow. You can only act on today. That being said, this year I'm just looking to get rid of more and more distractions and more things that don't benefit me, and just get better.
100%, my friend. This year has been an opportunity to create consistency in my life, and I certainly think I took some steps forward, some significant steps with that, but there's so much more work to be done, right? Even consistency with some of the content, consistency with physical fitness. Now I'm, consistency with salsa lessons, right? It's really, I think it was a period of my life when I kind of fell off, and had lost part of an identity, you know, um, my own identity. But now it's developing new habits, new identity, coming back to things that I love, and being consistent with those things, right? And actually excited about these opportunities for improvement, not just doing it for the sake of like check mark, actually enjoying the process and learning how to enjoy the process. Because at the end of the day, to your point, like, time flies, man. And I heard it's actually going faster as you age, so it's not going to stop. So I think we just got to make the best of it with what we have, and make it meaningful for us, because the things that I'm doing right now, they're more meaningful to me. And I'm actually looking forward to the future. And so, and it has been a good year, and I can see some of the flows. And I was just thinking about the song. I see clearly now that rain is gone, but the rain is not gone yet. The rain is actually, can't see clearly right now, literally speaking, but I can see more clearly in my mind, right?
It's coming here. Actually, just started thundering just after you mentioned that it's going to rain. It started thundering here. I don't know.
Dang it, man. Dang it. Real quick, Yvonne said, Personally, I beat cancer this year. I was given a new lease on life. I have made great new friends online and in person. Shout out to Yvonne. Huge, huge. Congrats on that. What a wonderful thing. What a life changing event. I'm just so happy for you. You're such an amazing person. Just based on our interaction through the membership chat on Instagram, you're always so positive. You're always so uplifting. You're always so supportive. And I'm just so happy for you because um, that is something that you know I think changed the world every single day. The cancer, the how many people will lose because of it, um, and then just the fact that you were able to overcome it. That's such a blessing. So huge shout out to you. And as I was reading your comment, I just thought there's just it's all in comparison. Life is in comparison because right now we may be thinking that we have real problems, but our real problems are nothing compared to somebody who is battling cancer, right? Our real problems are nothing compared to somebody who is in a hospital wishing they had another day to live. It's all really a matter of perspective. And it's funny, I had a conversation with my mom the other day, and she was telling me things, right? And um, about the things that going on with the house because we're trying to sell a house, this and the other. And I just said, Mom, these are just life circumstances. These are not problems. And she started laughing because it's just the way I worded in Russian. But a lot of things that we're going through, they're life circumstances. Loss of a job is a life circumstance. It's not really a problem, you know. Um, Divorcing someone, right? Going through a divorce is a problem. Losing a house is a problem, right? And then there's of course a different level. Yvonne, to your point, like having personal battle with cancer is more than a problem. That's like a devastating life event, I would say, right? But I think it's important for us to remember that a lot of things that sometimes we label as problems, they're really not. They just life circumstances that happen, and they're going to continue to happen. And if we think of them as problems, I think it's going to be harder on us. If we think of them as things that meant to happen regularly, they just obstacles, they just bumps on the road that we have to drive over. I think it just helps. At least it helps me.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. I mean, it makes me think of that saying that says, a healthy person has 1,000 wishes. A sick person has only one. And that puts things into perspective for me every day. Most things are just a circumstance. There's a changing. It's a temporary change. But if you have your health, if you can do what you need to do in a healthy way, you have a lot. That is a lot right then and there, because a lot of people don't have that. And of course you can expand that sphere of gratitude, where you're grateful for your health, and you could expand that. But if you, at the very least, if you have your health intact, man, that's the core. That's the core of experiencing life in a beautiful way. You know.
Yes, it's interesting because it is all in comparison, right? If as you said, if your health is taken away from you, nothing else matters. Like everything else pales in comparison by a great degree. So if we can find a way to reflect even a little bit, right? A little bit of gratitude on a daily basis, acknowledge the fact that like I have my health, or maybe my health is in good enough shape for me to do things still, right? Maybe there's some minor things that I have that shouldn't prevent me to live a good quality life. If we can acknowledge these things on a daily basis, like I honestly believe, Michael, we don't even understand the full impact of this gratitude. I know I mentioned gratitude like in a lot of my videos and a lot of my content, but if we are too busy solving, so to speak, problems, which really are life circumstances, right? We are too busy to acknowledge that just simply being healthy, just that alone, nothing else, it's such a big blessing. And that a sick person would give everything just to be healthy, right? And so like when I like sometimes when I think about that I don't have this or I don't have that or I'm not where I want to be, my mind sometimes goes, well, what about people at war right now? Or what about people who are truly disabled, who are on wheelchair, or people who just, you know, terminally ill? Like, what about them? And like, anytime I think about that, it's like everything else just, I'm like, oh, I'm actually having a great day, you know, because the big picture is still there. Good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. Yvonne said, you guys have given more to me than I could give to you. So thank you. Thank you for saying that. And thank you for being part of this amazing community. I appreciate you so, so, so much. And I'm so glad that you healthy. Um, well, what else? What else you have in mind? I mean, that's already been a great convo, man. So if you have something else in mind, we can continue on.
Well, I would add on that last point you made about gratitude. Gratitude is one of the most underrated mindsets, and it's not just a mindset, it's an emotional state. I think it's even more powerful as an emotional state because when you when in order to have gratitude, you kind of have to let go of a lot of friction inside, right? You cannot be jealous of someone and at the same time be grateful for what you have. It's just they're conflicting emotions. So gratitude has the power, if you focus on it, has the power to extinguish a lot of negative emotions that don't serve you. Um, if you wake up every day and you first thing you do in the morning is think about what you're grateful for or to whom you are grateful, and you get into that state of just wow, like just look around and appreciate everything you already have, everything you've already attained. You go, wow, thank you for this. Look, I have a roof over my head. I have four walls. I have air conditioning. I have toilets that work. I have running water. I have hot water if I want to take a shower. I have a loving dog who's just laying down right now, just taking a nap, dreaming about doggy dreams. I have a lot to be grateful for, right? So I'm just sitting here and I'm like, it's such a relief because at the one end, I do strive and I get to a state of I want more, I want to do things, I want to do things for other people. But if you don't ever can get to a place where you can just be grateful for what you've already attained in the last few years, then you're missing the point. The point to strive is because you want something more, but eventually you get there. And if you're just constantly in a state of striving and wanting something else, you forget that, hey, you already have what you wanted at some point. So gratitude is, man, it's probably one of the most powerful emotions out there. Maybe after love and, some emotions that come from love, like courage and honesty, that sort of thing, sacrifice. I would say gratitude is one of those core, powerful emotions and mental states because you can also bring gratitude to a business setting where you're so grateful to your employer that you're willing to do more than your duties are. You're going to do a little extra for free because you're so grateful. Well, guess what? Your employer notices you and then gives you a promotion or rewards you in some way eventually. So obviously, I'm not thinking of it transactionally. I'm not grateful for the sake of getting more. I'm just grateful for the sake of being grateful. And then eventually good things happen to you. Because the other thing that's great about being a grateful person, emotionally grateful, is that when you meet new people, people can sense that. People love others who are just grateful. I met a new friend this weekend. Shout out to Maher. He's from Syria and he lives in New Jersey. He came and spent some time over this past weekend with a couple other friends who stayed with me. And we had some really great interactions, and we had some good conversations. And, at first, I was cooking meat for everybody. I was, we had drinks, and I wasn't even thinking how it was impacting him. He was just part of the group, and I was just giving, 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 giving. And this guy, out of nowhere, he's like, "Hey man, thank you so much for X, Y, and Z." And he just started going. I'm like, dude, no, it's okay. Like, this is, you're welcome. He's like, it's fine. He's like, no, but seriously, dude, like, gave me a hat. Like, I was looking. It's funny because in my mind, I'm looking for new hats. I like these special kind of hats. And actually, I want to grab it for a second so you guys can see.
We're talking about gratitude. If you're just joining us, be sure to smash the like button, and let us know your thoughts in the live chat comments.
So normally I wear this hat. This is the hat I wear the most. I like to wear this hat a lot, and I just like the way it looks. Sometimes I'll wear it backwards, and I'm like, man, I need more hats like this, right? So this weekend, at the end of the hanging out, this guy goes, "Hey man, I want to give you something." And I'm like, "Okay, what do you want to give me?" He's like, "I want to give you a hat. Will you accept the hat?" I'm like, "Of course, like I accept any gift, thank you." And then he gives me this hat, which is the same. This is the exact hat that I've been looking for. Maybe not the New York Yankees. I've been looking for any style hat like this, right? It's the same hat. It's a New York Yankees hat, which is a cool hat. Now it's in black because I have a blue one. Now I have a black one. Now I can wear this hat, and it's the same hat. And like, I don't know if I manifested that or, but just being in that state of gratitude and abundance and being generous and sharing, wherever you can. It was just like a little, like, it was like a message from the universe, from God, for whatever you want to call it. But there's a way in which you can connect better to other human beings if you come from a state of gratitude, if you're generous with your time, with your emotion, with, obviously not being naive. You have to have boundaries, of course, and you have to have limits, and you have to, if you want to operate on a budget with your finances, all that, you want to be responsible, but to whatever extent you can, it's a good idea to be generous, and not because someone's going to give you a free hat. That's not the point. The point is we exchange energy, and now I have a new friend. It's great, and I think you can apply that principle to any aspect of life. If you just come from a state of gratitude, you will get more out of it than you can even realize, and you have no idea what to expect. You just have to take it as a proposition, and if you find it hard to be grateful for things, that's something you want to look at. It's something to say, hey, like, why do I have such a hard time being grateful for X, Y, and Z? Where does that come from? Where's the first time I felt this feeling? Maybe it comes from when you were a kid and you and your sibling used to argue a lot over toys or whatever it is. But at some point, if you really want to be free, if you really want to be independent, gratitude is going to be a huge helper along the way. So it's one of my closing thoughts.
Yeah, that's good, man. As you talked about at one point during your comments, you talked about destination and how some people approach this life as a way to get somewhere, to a certain point. And I think we got to remember that we don't know for sure how any of our lives are going to play out, and when a number is called, that's just the reality of it, right? So I think the problem is approaching life as a destination, is that you might not ever get there, not because you don't want to, but because of other circumstances outside of your control. And that's not to you know finish on a dark note, but it's to encourage everyone to consider really enjoying the journey, because the life, in my opinion, is meant to be a journey. We meant to have fun on the trip, not only when we get there. It's like driving on to the beach. It's not like you only going to have fun on the beach. You have fun when you drive, whether it's because you have a great conversation with your friends, whether because you're listening awesome music, whether it because you're just enjoying the sightseeing that you are witnessing on the drive, all those things. So I think the premise of life, for me personally, at this point of my life, is to figure out how to enjoy the ride. And I think one of the biggest blessings that any human being can have is that being in the moment in which they realize how blessed they are. right? So if you can actually be in the moment and truly feel like I have a good life, I really love my life, I enjoy my life, and I'm grateful for my life. um I know you and I had a conversation a while back, um where I mentioned to you that, there was a moment, a random moment, where I realized how blessed I am. But it was weird. It was different that time because I was in the moment doing something. I think I was just visiting my mom, a few months back. And I was just sitting there in the couch. My mom was there, the dog was there. Um, sadly, my dad is gone already. But during that moment, I just realized like that's the blessing. Like it's not about, other things, right? It's about having, your family, being in your own home, um, having the quality time together. And I've had similar situations where you and I were at the festival, right? To where like in that moment I felt like I'm happy right now. Like I'm very fulfilled. Like I don't need anything else. Meaning that, it's not that I don't have ambitions and goals, but in that moment, like I feel like a happy human being, truly and fully. And I think that's a blessing of life. It's a blessing of life to have that feeling. And I think to your point, gratitude can be a huge driver to create that. Because if you can identify things that you are grateful for, you can live life in a way that will allow you to be fulfilled and happy and grateful. And I think it just gratitude plays such a big role in being able to get to that point. Good stuff, man. It looks like another one from Yvonne. I love you all, but I have to go. BFF is waiting. I think we are around the course. I think everybody is try to go. But I'm not going to hold you any longer either. I think we had a great conversation, man. I appreciate your time. It's always nice to connect, and it's always nice. It's also nice to just have this off the cuff conversations where it's like not planned. We can just talk wherever.
Yeah, for sure.
um, I might not be seeing you in person, but this was certainly a good alternative to the beach day.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate you. I'm actually gonna get off at the same time as you will, so I don't have to. We can just throw a peace sign and be outie. Guys, thank you all so much for joining us. We appreciate you. Happy 4th of July. Enjoy your weekend. Think about what habits you can get rid of, bad habits, to be more independent, happy, and fulfilled. Much love to everyone. And thank you, Michael. Much love to you too, my brother. Have a great day.
Thank you. All
Peace.
right. Peace.